So, you want to create your own animated series? Well, you can. In this video, I'm going to show you how I did just that. From designs to animation, voiceover, and editing, I'll do a quick overview of everything required that I use to create my animated series, ExtraNots.
Hey everybody, Mark Vanny here. So yeah, I've had a lot of questions about the show, mostly how it's made and what programs do we use. So I thought it was time to make a behind the scenes video. Really fun for someone if you're interested in making your own animated series, and if you're just a fan of the show, it'll be fun too. I will preface that I mostly use Adobe programs for this, specifically Character Animator for the animation. All right, in this video, I'm going to cover the 10 steps and 7 programs that I use to make my animation. These are them right here on the sides. So yeah, mostly Adobe programs, a little Word, a couple other things online, but yeah, very, very basic. Anyone has access to this stuff, super easy. I'll go through it as quick as I can to make this as efficient as possible. And they are going to be covering these subjects. So those are the ones that we're going to touch on. It's everything you need to make your own show. So who am I and why should you care what I have to say? Well, I've got 15 years experience in animation and visual effects. Here's some of the properties that I've worked on in the past, but specifically in production, not as an artist, meaning I wasn't actually doing any of the artwork, the animation. I was just assisting the artist with coordination and budgets and schedules and all that boring stuff. And why that's important is that I didn't know how to do any of this about 6 months ago. I taught myself online using tutorials, all that fun stuff that you have access to as well. So if you like the style of animation of the stuff that you saw at the beginning of the video, that's what I did. That's what I'm going to show you how I did it. Is it even remotely close to the stuff that I worked on? No, but you got to start somewhere, and we're going to start right over here. How was that? How's that for transition? Okay, so let's just jump into it. Writing. How do I handle writing? I just use
Google Docs.
Honestly,
Docs
is the best for me because I used to use Final Draft. There's plenty of other, writing softwares out there. But what I like about
Docs
is that it's cloud-based. It's everywhere. So if I want to update somewhere else, if I'm out waiting for an appointment, lying in bed, you come up with great ideas, I can just take it out and do it on my phone. So yeah, I just go bit by bit. I have my outline. I know what I'm gonna do. So I put down my beats of what I know I want to happen in the episode, and then I just put down the beats, and then I just expand and expand and expand. So okay, I know this scene. Rex is gonna talk to Cindy about blank. So let's just write that down. Essential lines for essential lines, and then punch it up, make it funny, and I just do that over and over and over until I feel like I've gotten to a good enough place that I'm happy with. And yeah, so here's an example of episode 2. We just have I do a little short description. We see Rex ship approach softly land. This is episode 2. I have tiny little cues for myself run on, so I know what to do when I'm recording when I'm in the booth here behind me. We'll get into that in a sec. But yeah, really simple, just the characters one by one, a little bit of descriptions, but it's just me, so I don't need to write too much because I know what I'm going to do. So the script writing is very, very simple. Not much to talk about there. What's next? Recording. Okay, so recording, very simple. When I actually refinished this basement last year, I made this into a regular room. This is a tiny little closet. I framed it this way. If I knew at the time that I'd be using it for a recording booth, I would have made it bigger because it's quite small, but because it's so small, it actually records really good sound because the smaller the better, I find. So yeah, it's all just simple pads that I got online. I filled the closet, these little foam guys. Again, basic mic, basic little mic cover. I have a cell phone handle that's used for, I think, inside a car. That I'm dangling where I just put my phone on it with my live script so I can just scroll through with it in there with me. Yeah, and then I put 2 big furniture pads on the outside of it. I've got them hanging on eye hooks on the outside that keeps it nice and contained. Is it perfect? No, but it sounds a hell of a lot better than it did. So if you can find a closet in your house that you don't use that you can empty and turn into a little recording booth, I would highly recommend it. It's also great for when I do voice auditions for commercials or video games because you can just record at home in this tiny little closet and it sounds so much better. So again, fairly cheap. All you need is a spare closet that you don't mind turning into this forever. It works great. So that's how I do my recording. And let's get into the voices. Why don't we? Let's get into how I record the voices. So this is one of my favorite parts of the process for obvious reasons. It's just fun. Yeah, I do, again, everything here in another Adobe program, Adobe Audition, which is super easy to use. I love it. Yeah, and I record everything here behind me in this booth that I made, as I mentioned. But yeah, let's just not waste any time. Let's just get into it. Here is a recording that I have of episode 3. So let me just hit play. I'll give you an idea of kind of my process and how it works.
What on earth do you think you're doing?
Duh, I'm not actually on Earth.
Oh, you know what I mean.
So obviously, that's the beginning of episode 3. That's the back and forth between Rex and Casey, his daughter. Again, I voice all the characters in this show just because I wanted to, and it's easy. And yes, if I had the money and I could pay professional voice actors to do the women's voices, I would. But I don't. So I do everything myself, and it's fun. So pretty simple for the recording. Like I said, I just do it behind me here in the booth, and then I bring everything in. I do all the takes of every line that I have to do. I usually do 2 or 3 takes of each line. Until I feel like I got it, and then okay, I got the line, I'm good. And of course, I rarely use the first take I did. You always listen to it again and again. I could do that better. I can punch that up. So I'll do it again and again and again until I'm happy with it. And then of course you're going to rewrite it and you're going to do it again and again and again. So there's a lot of redoing this stuff. But let's just get into the specifics of how I bring these voices in. So as you'll see here in Audition, let me just full screen this. I only have a couple things. Anytime I record something, I'll always throw on dynamics, which I didn't have here because I already, anyways, for whatever reason, I didn't have it on this one. I'll do dynamics and I'll do reduce noise. You'll see I have that as a filter over here already, so I didn't need it twice. Reduce noise will take that hum out of the room. There's a little hum that always happens. It does a really good job getting rid of that. Like it's really impressive how well it does. And like I said, dynamics, it just kind of fills it in. It really punches up the voice. So those are the 2 things I do off the bat with the whole file when I bring it in. And then I'll cut it up into all the takes that I'm going to be using. So I find the takes that I like. Okay, this of the 3 takes I like. This of the 3 takes. And then I just do one character at a time. And then as I do the other characters, I bring them in their own line, and then I cut them up individually. And this is basically how I storyboard in a way. I put them down voice to voice, and then after I have this, I'll export the voices individually. That's what I'll bring into Character Animator. That's what we'll do the animation to. That's what we'll do the lip sync to, but we'll get into that later. Specifically for the voices, you'll notice obviously I pitch them to make them sound a little different. Yes, it's cheating, but hey, I don't want all the characters to sound the same. It's still me. For Rex, I'll go ahead. I'll turn off the pitch. I just drop him a little bit, you'll see. So I'll turn that off.
What on earth do you...
Let me just mute Casey here for a second. So here's Rex.
What on earth do you think you're doing here?
So that's just me. But of course I want him to sound a little bit deeper. So I use the pitch shifter filter, which is just, I'm going down. There's 2 things you can do here. There's the semitones, which is you really hear the difference between the pitches, and then the sense just gives it a little bit more. Again, I know I'm sure there's a more scientific, specific way of explaining that. I'm not that guy. I'm not an audio guy. But yeah, I'll just give you a little bit of an example. If I drop this all the way down to -5, let's play that out.
What on earth do you think you're doing here?
Obviously, we're not going to go with that. It's a little unnatural. Down to 2 felt a little too deep for me still.
What on earth do you think you're doing here?
Sounds a little unnatural, so I just went to a -1, and then I dropped the sense down to a -50. It felt like a good natural voice.
What on earth do you think you're doing here?
There we got Rex. So it took me, just play with it. Just if you want to go higher, lower. With Wazzy, I thought I would go lower. I ended up going higher. Just have fun with it. Just play with it, and you'll find... your favorite for each character. So that's Rex. We pop over to Casey, his daughter, play her out.
Duh, I'm not actually on Earth.
So again, they're both basically my natural speaking voice. With her, she is a female, so I spoke a little more feminine naturally, although I think I actually already have that in my radio voice, or what you want to say. So if I take that pitch shifter off, this is what I recorded.
Duh, I'm not actually on Earth.
So again, basically my natural speaking voice, but with her, I just pitched her up a little bit. So he went down by 1, she went up by 1. That's really it. I didn't touch her sense. And with that change, you just get her voice.
Duh, I'm not actually on Earth.
So what's nice is that because they're father-daughter, they actually should sound the same. So that worked really well for me. So yeah, that's Casey and Rex. Now let's go over to Mr. He was a lot of fun. So there's a few things going on with him. Mr.'s our robot, obviously. You'll notice in episode 1, he had an English voice, more of a 3PO kind of thing going on. That's what I chose. And then when I had to find a voice for Vinny, the mission commander, I ended up using a voice that I came up with a friend. His character's name is Mr. Carmichael, and he talks like this. This is my voice. So I love Mr. Carmichael. I knew I wanted to fit him in somewhere in the show. So, and then when I picked him for Vinny, I'm like, oh man, I love that voice so much, and Mister's in the show more. I'm just going to swap the voices. And because he's a robot, you can do that. So I wrote a bit where he steals his voice. He takes his voice because he's familiar to Rex, and this is what we ended up with.
Are you kidding? This is the best footage we've gotten in weeks.
So again, I didn't pitch him that much. If we go to the edit, I just dropped the sense. I didn't do much to the actual voice itself. So if I turn that off,
Are you kidding?
you can barely tell the difference. The biggest thing for him is he has a filter on, a dialogue filter, which is from the telephone. So it sounds like he's coming out of a speaker because it is coming out of a speaker. So if we turn that off, we get basically, this is the recording that I did without anything done to it.
Are you kidding? This is the best footage we've gotten in weeks.
And again, it all starts with the voice of how you record it. So the Mr. Carmichael, I'm down here. This is that gravelly world of where you speak. So start with finding the good character voice and then go from there. So if you're going to try to do it all with presets and all with these EQs and things, I mean, go ahead, try it, but if they'll all sound the same. I think it'll be obvious that it's coming from the same person. Again, I didn't pitch him that much, just a tiny little bit, just to drop it a little bit, just to give it the sound that I wanted him to have. Okay, so that's Mr. Let's go over to Cindy. Cindy is our influencer type. She's very, California, very typical influencer, no real inspiration for her, but, we all know the type. So here's Cindy and how... is this her? Yeah, this is Cindy here.
Well, you two sure are related. Casey, what do you mean you think Wazzy's dead?
Again, so this one I just wanted to bring her up a little bit. I pitched her obviously up by 2, so she's just up by 2, and then the sense I pushed up as well. For Cindy, I wanted to know how to get a real good feminine sounding voice, which yeah, I did a little research online and they all say the same thing. The best way to have first you got to start with the most feminine voice you can make yourself. Like I can't, if I recorded myself talking like this and I wanted to make it sound like a woman, a typical female voice, it's not going to work. It's going to sound, very mannish. So instead, when I recorded, here, let me just play you basically what I did myself with nothing done to it. And this is how it sounded when I did it.
Well, you two sure are related. Casey, what do you mean you think Wazzy's dead?
Again, not super feminine. I think there's other parts where I went more feminine. The pitch shifter obviously brings it up.
Well, you two sure are related.
And then with the graphic equalizers, again, did a little research and I found someone that mentioned there's specific levels that you can adjust to make this voice a little higher without getting flinty, which is a huge, or tinny flinty, which is a huge thing that happens when you're messing with sound. So that's a good thing to mention. When you are messing with levels and EQs and filters, it will distort the audio. So the less you can do, the better. If I mess with all these levels, you start to get pops. You start to get it gets a real tinny sound. You lose the body, the fullness. So you want to avoid it as much as possible. That's why I did only a little. You can see there's very little going on here with the levels, and I'll play with it. Even when I turn it off, I don't notice a huge difference. You have to listen to it a lot when you're doing it, so if I play it out.
Well, you two sure are related.
Again, I probably don't even need this thing that I added to it. The pitch shifter is probably enough. But again, that's what I did, and I got it to the point where I was happy enough with how it sounded, and then you just say good enough and you move on. That's the name of the game. You just got to keep doing it as good as you want it until you're like, that's it. I'm happy. Where's Wazzy? Okay, Wazzy was a different case, obviously. Let's play a little bit of Wazzy here.
Hey girl, what's cracking, yo?
So a lot going on there. Wazzy was, it took me a little bit to figure out what I was going to do with him. I knew that he was going to be a rapper. They're still influencers. I wanted to figure out, their characters and who they were, and they're obviously going to change as the show goes on. But Wazzy, I didn't, I wanted him to sound as different as for me as so you can't tell it's obviously done by the same guy that does Rex or Casey or Cindy or Mister. So with him, again, I did a little bit pitch shifting. I brought him up a little bit. If I turn that off and play it, you're gonna hear more. There's no pitch going on.
Hey girl, what's cracking, yo?
Again, there's still a lot going on there. With him, you saw in the episode 3, he has a natural auto-tune surgically built into his voice box. Of course he does. So I added an auto-tune filter to him. It's called automatic pitch correction rack effect here in Audition. I just chose a major C chord, and it just kind of auto corrects his voice. You can turn up the level, the sensitivity. I picked a sweet spot that I like. What did I do? I went with a major C, attack at 6 and sensitivity at 100. Again, play with it, find what works best for you. It really makes no difference. And then I have chorus. So chorus is it's what's giving him that crazy, insane sound. And again, it's another filter, and this is just me playing around in Audition and trying to find the filter that I like the most. So there's if you want to copy what I did, go for it. Delay time, 10.62 hertz, 7.4% feedback spread, 18.2. They're all there. Take a look, take a screenshot. If I turn that off and I turn off his pitch shifter, you get what I recorded, which I'm sure is very painful to listen to.
Hey girl, what's cracking, yo?
Okay, it's not that bad. So there it's obviously me. Again, it's just messing around in the booth, having some fun, trying to find the funniest thing. Add a whole bunch of filters and you get...
Hey girl, what's cracking, yo?
So, yeah, he was fun. We'll see if we keep it. That's the beauty of the show and animation is what I love is that barring Rex and Casey and Cindy, the main characters, once you pick a voice, it's kind of hard to change them after the fact because that's who they are and those are their voices. And yeah, once you pick it and you just have to kind of live with it. Unless it's a robot who can change his voice. So here's my entire episode. If you look at the screen here, so there's my whole episode. So this is how I basically plot out my, this is where I start. Before I get into animation, before I do any acting or lip sync, obviously you have to start with the audio. And I just lay the whole episode out. So this is my entire episode at the beginning where they're talking back and forth. It's kind of...
What on earth do you think you're doing?
Duh, I'm not actually on Earth.
Oh, you know what I mean.
No,
Don't
Dad,
you know
what
how
do you
dangerous
mean?
it is here?
So again, I have what I wrote, and then you kind of get it in here and you put it all together and you figure out what works actually and feels better. And then I lay out the entire episode. It'll take me about a week, I'd say, to record the episode, all the characters, and that includes rewriting and doing pickups, and you'll be lying in bed and you'll think of a funnier line for something and you'll go, oh, that's better. And yeah, feel free, do it. Obviously, the more you do it, the longer it'll take to get done. I know with especially YouTube content, it's all about getting stuff out as fast as possible, but you know what? If you want it to be, it's never going to be perfect, ever. You're never going to make a perfect episode that everybody loves. For the 100 people that like your show, you could get 50 that hate it, and that's fine. There's nothing you can do about that. So you just got to do it. Do what makes you happy, what makes you laugh, and then just move on. Because if you dwell on every little step and like, oh, that, and I do it for obviously the first episode. My first episode was very rough. It was still me. That was basically me learning the programs. You'll notice whenever Rex moves his head, his body doesn't move. I didn't have additional views for his body. I didn't have all these little touches like Mr.'s antenna waving and all those little things that you'll add as you learn the programs more and go on. It's all just a learning process. You don't know everything when you start doing something. You learn as you go, and that's what this is. So yeah, that's audio. And then once I'm done, I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Once I'm done, I'll kind of do it in sections. So this is the first section of the episode 3 where Rex and Casey are kind of having at it before they fly off. I think this is where they
And you will respect me.
Yeah, this is the end of the first scene before they get back to the ship. So what I'll do, and we'll get into animation eventually here, but what I'll do is I will basically isolate just the section that I want, that I'm going to use. I'll export the selected clips, so just what I've selected, and I will call it ExtraNots EP3 Rex 1. That's what I'll call that. Choose where it's going to go. Hit OK, and boom, MP3, that's fine. All the default settings are good, they'll work. And then it goes into a folder. You take that and you bring that into Character Animator once we get into animation, which we will do soon. But before we do, why don't we talk about character designs? Because we can't exactly do anything with animation until we have some working characters. So let's do that. Okay, characters. This is a big one. I have a lot of people ask me questions. Who did the characters? Where did you get your designs? Peter Slavic, as I mentioned in the credits. I worked with him on Rick and Morty. He's an awesome designer. He did a bunch of awesome fan art for Rick and Morty when we worked on the show. Check it out. Here, there it is, flying by. You might be saying to yourself, but Mark, I don't know any designers. What are my options? Well, it just so happens I did use Free Pick online to make Mission Commander. I wanted this character quickly just to put him in the show. I wanted to see how well I could handle it. It's okay. It's not great. He's treated heavily, through an After Effects, so you're not seeing all the imperfections. But yes, if you know any designers, if you can find someone that can do designs for you for 2D animation, because online stuff really seems to struggle with 2D. If it's out there, I don't know. But yes, always use a designer when you can. I would highly recommend it. Yeah, had to do that spiel. Okay, so that's character designs, which we love. But background designs, this might strike a nerve for a few people because yes, I did have to use AI, a website, to make the backgrounds. I didn't want to, but I also don't have unlimited funds to pay designers to make all the backgrounds for me, which can take a long time. I wish I could. Once, maybe if the show starts making some money, I can afford it, and then I will, because it works-ish. It looks okay, but man, if I had my choice, if I had it my way, I would use real designers to do some great 2D backgrounds, because I'm sure you can tell, you can struggle and try to get it to do what you want it to do, but man, I have yet to find. I did a little bit of research. There is not a great website for finding that can make the stuff that you want to see in the 2D world. It can take a long time of finicking to give you what you want. So again, didn't want to have to do this, but it's the only way I can do it. So as you can see up here, I've got the room that I made for episode 3. I didn't make a log for Wazzy to trip over. I made my ship there. I made the home base and everything. So is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it good enough for what I need in the show? Sure. Again, didn't want to do it, but it's the only way that I could get backgrounds in here. Again, it can take a long time to typing and saying not like that, like this. It always tends to go towards a 3D or photoreal preference, which I don't want. Obviously, I want it to be 2D. That's what I want. Again, this isn't free. It is a paid website that you can get into. But if you're looking for a website for doing 2D backgrounds, it's the best that I found. Again, it's Free Pick. So that's that. And again, don't want to get too much into that, but yeah, that's where my backgrounds came from. Okay, so what's next? All right, so let's come back to characters here. Look at Rexy, how we get this guy ready for animation. Yeah, his design, it was different. I've changed a few things over the time. I know Photoshop a little bit, and there's a few things that I changed with this character specifically. Some things didn't work so well with animation, like they kind of broke, or when you bend the elbow, things were intersecting, as we call it. Wasn't working that well, so I made a few changes myself with the limited Photoshop knowledge that I had, just to make it a little bit easier on me once I got into animation. So let's take a closer look at Rex. So yeah, when it comes to building characters, again, you have your design. You can't just take this and just drop it into Character Animator and it'll work. You need to build the characters or rig the characters, and all of our people in animation will be very familiar with this. Rigging takes a lot of time, and good rigging makes all the difference for the animators and how fast they can work and how fast you can get the show done. So spending time on rigging and building them properly is super, super, super important. It often gets overlooked when people are bidding shows and scheduling shows. Yeah, shout out to the riggers. You know who you are. Tiago! Yeah, so when it comes to, breaking these guys down, you can't just, like I said, you have to get them ready for the program. So you need every little thing separated. So here we've got Rex's hair, this little dangle up top. That's separated so that when he moves, you'll notice his head will move with his body. Obviously, his mustache is separated because I can't have it move. Well, there's different reasons for that. I need the mouth basically hidden behind the mustache, so you have to separate that. The mouths, I have 3 different mouths for all the characters: happy, sad/angry, and neutral. Now, he's usually in neutral. Sometimes you'll notice they'll smile, sometimes they'll get frustrated and sad and angry. And you can control those in Character Animator just with a click of a button. I have mine on 1, 2, 3. You can do whatever you want. And yeah, it's an easy way to, while you're doing your performance and while you're recording, that you can just quickly switch from happy to neutral. And of course, after you're done recording, you can go in and you can kind of tweak where the happy and the sad and the neutral kind of kick in and kick off. So, for every single mouth, you will need a M mouth, you will need an S mouth, you will need an E mouth, a D mouth. So you need a mouth for every single shape of, there's not every single letter of the alphabet, obviously. You need your woo mouth, you need your F mouth. This one's important. You need that biting the bottom lip. I didn't make these mouths. Luckily, there are people out there that make these mouths and they have mouth sets. This one was free. I can't remember where I found it, but if you just look up free mouth set, you will find stuff like this. You can probably, I'm sure you'll find this one. It's everywhere. Yeah, and you can just use your mouse set. You drop it into the character. You position it how you want. For the happy, sad neutrals, I actually tweaked what I had. So if we go to these other mouths, you'll see I just took the mouths that I already had, and then in Photoshop, I actually take the mouth and I will say distort. And maybe it's not distort with this. Yeah, so distort, and you can, I took like the existing S mouth from neutral and I just made him smile a little bit. Same thing with the sad mouths. I just came in here and, you know, brought it down a little bit. Let's turn off the happy mouths. Boom, drop the mouth a little bit. So that's how I made the extra mouths for the sads, the angries, and the happies, just based off the neutrals. So again, that takes a while. You'll spend a couple days making all the mouths just for all the characters. If you want to make them yourself, I made the mistake. I tried to personally make the mouths for Casey in the second episode when she shows up, and as you can tell, if you watch it, they are terrible. I don't know why I thought I could make them myself, but they look like crap. And so I would not advise, unless, okay, if you are an actual artist or a cartoonist and you can draw these mouths and you're happy with how they look, go for it. It'll give it that really nice style that you're looking for, your authenticity. If you're like me and you're not particularly a good drawer, which I never have been, find them online, find mouth sets. There's free ones, you can pay for them. They're everywhere. They're very cheap. Just if you're not an artist, don't make my mistake and try to make your own mouth set, because it'll end up being so much work and it'll probably not look very good. And then you'll throw out all art and just use something that you find online for $1, which is just so much easier. So just save your time. So yeah, that's mouths. Eyes, eyebrows, you need those separated because, as you'll see in the show, as you're acting in character animator, the camera, it uses your webcam to actually track your face, which is why it's such a time save on so many things. You need your eyebrows separated. Eyeliner is just an outline of the eye, and I'll explain why right now. Yeah, so when you do in character animator, for the blinks in the eyes, you have your pupils, you have your eyes yourself. How can I find it here? The eyeliner is literally just basically the lines of the eye above and copied, because the way that the layers work is that if I didn't have that, you see the pupil kind of come out. And there are some scenes, character animator sometimes has issues with the exact pixel placements of each layer. And I've had moments where you can kind of see a little bit of white on the outside where you shouldn't, or on the other side, which is kind of hard to avoid. You can futz with it forever. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, and you just go, you know what, I've had enough, I'm moving on. And it's not that obvious. And then, of course, you see it, and you go, I see it every single time. So if you can avoid anything that bothers you, if you just go, whatever, and you put it in the show, you'll see it every single time. So if it really bugs you that much, just move on. This isn't like, you know, a traditional production where we have hard deadlines and this has to be done today or has to be done by Friday. If it doesn't matter when it goes out, then spend the time making it look exactly how you want it to. That's the beauty of doing it yourself. Yeah, so we've got our eyes separated. As I mentioned, we obviously have our blinks. So we'll add our blinks, which is literally just a flesh tone version of the eyelid, which you need as a separate layer. You obviously have the pupil. You obviously have the eyeball, the white behind it. I think here when I turn it off, you don't see anything because I also have white behind his head in case the white eyeball didn't move out. Yeah, you need all these things separated, and that's the only way it's going to work in Character Animator. Again, a lot of layers going on here. So that's the head. If we go to the body, pretty straightforward. So we've got our chest, obviously. For this view, I didn't have his shoulders separated. I don't think I needed to because it didn't quite matter. We obviously have our arms. I have two arms for Rex. I have a closed fist and I have an open hand because I found I only had the designs that I got from Pete were just the open hand. And then there's moments where I wanted him to put his hands on his hips because when he was just standing there for so long, not doing anything, and it looked really... it felt really unnatural. So I wanted to put his hands on his hips. So I built these myself. So all I did was, if I zoom in here, I actually got myself little, one of these trackpads. You can get them on online, super cheap, with a pen. And all I did was I took the hand that I had, and I just kind of drew these fingers to go into a fist position. So I did this myself. Photoshop, if you don't know it, it's super easy to use once you understand how it works. Again, that's where we are now. You can use Illustrator, you can use Photoshop. I learned Photoshop in film school many years ago. Again, it was just one class. It was really short, but it gave me the basics. And yeah, once you get the hang of it, it's super fun to play with. So yeah, I've got two hands for Rex, and then some of the characters have other hands as well. And you'll notice in the show, and I can show you once we get into Character Animator, how easy it is. Again, it's just a switch between. I think I have F for fist. So when I'm with Rex, if I want him to go to F, I just hit F, boom, goes to fist. Fist puts his hands on his hips, and yeah, and you can just do it whenever you want. Makes it super easy. Legs, obviously, I don't need different legs. Tricky thing that you'll notice when you get into this part of it is you need the... this view's not a great example because it's maybe if I hide the body. Here we go. So you need the legs to come up so high because when the legs bend, and you'll bend your knees, if they're not going up higher than they should, then you'll see breaks and cracks between the body and the legs. And there are moments, I'm sure that if you watch the show closely, you can still see those moments, but they're not super obvious enough that I need to basically kill myself trying to make them perfect, which, man, making things perfect is basically impossible in these programs. You make it as good as they can be, and then you just get it done and get it out there and you move on. So that's Rex. Woo, why are we doing that? Okay, so there's Rex. That's one. I don't have to get into all the characters, but that's a basic breakdown of kind of what's involved that you need to do for breaking down these characters to be using Character Animator. So why don't we just hop over there and see how it's done? Let's do it. Okay, here we are, animation, finally. So, yeah, you'll notice right off the bat, we have our lovely Rex who is following my head over here side to side. And that is with my webcam facing right in front of me. And it picks everything up. We got eyebrows, got the eyes, we've got the squinting, we've got the eyes closing. Obviously, the mouth is following my mouth. It's okay, but it's not perfect, and we have other methods around that, which I will get into in a bit. But yes, the reason it's picking that up is because my mic is on now. If I turn my mic off, there you go, his mouth is frozen. If I turn it back on, if I turn off my camera, it's not going to be seeing anything, so he won't move. You notice there's little imperfections in the eyes in some views. It's kind of bugged me. Okay, he looks pretty good. So that's all the kind of futzing that I talked about that you will do here in the rig mode. There is a lot of stuff going on in the rig mode. And again, you can get into these tutorials. You might wonder, where do I learn all this stuff? I didn't go to films or animation school. No, I did not. I learned everything as you learn everything these days on YouTube, specifically a channel called OK Samurai. He is awesome. He has tutorials on everything. So if you want to learn specifically how to animate, I'm not the person to tell you how. I'm just telling you how I did it. OK Samurai is your guy if you want to keep watching how to. He's got some really good stuff on how to learn it. So yeah, we've got again, same. This is modeled exactly how you would see in Photoshop. So we've got you know, we've got her head, we've got her hair, we've got her stash, we've got her mouth, we've got everything. And there's all these little things that you have to do. Again, I'm not going to get into specifics of exactly how you have to rig all these things. You know, I'll just kind of touch on it. When you click on your happy mouths, you know, you need your mouth selected. You've got all your little M, your S, your E. They're all associated with mouths here on the side and the tags for the character. Everything is assigned to something. So you don't just bring it in and it works. When you first bring in the character, you are going to get a character where it's just his head moving, his feet are flying all over the place, and you got to go through and you got to pin the feet and you've got to add bones to them. You know, why don't we just do it right away? Here, so if we go to the arms, for example, here's our body. You've got your shoulders tagged, your neck, your hips, your waist. For the arms themselves, you need obviously your elbows, you need bones. I think, are they called bones in here? They're called sticks. So you've got sticks that basically act as bones. You need to add behaviors to these limbs so that there's the limb IKs so that they behave like limbs. You can adjust the elbow threshold, where it flips, which direction it flips. All these things that you have to keep an eye on, and then of course you need to make them draggable. So when I'm doing animation, I want to click and drag like a wrist or a foot or a knee, and I want to move that around. That's how you do the animation. You need to have these things draggable, and again, you do this in the rigging. This is the rigging stage I mentioned that is so important. The more time you spend in rigging, the easier it'll be on the animators or yourself. So it's important to spend enough time rigging it properly. If it's not rigged properly, there's no way around it. The animators will figure out, everyone will know that it's not done right, and you got to go back and you got to do it again. So when it comes to the actual recording, the performance, the animation, I start, there's a few different ways that you can do it, obviously. You have all of your track behaviors here on the left. You got your draggers, which is how you move around your, your hands, your feet, your knees. Your lip sync obviously is something else that I'll get into in a sec. But yes, with Character Animator, it makes it quite simple for doing the initial performance. And the way I do it is I'll bring in the audio that I recorded. First I'll do the lip sync, which I'll get into a sec. And then I'll start with my lip sync, and then I do my performance based on, like, okay, if he's starting to the left, he's going to start here. Maybe he's picking up my eyes are open. I've mapped my pupils to keys. So left, up, down, right, wherever I want him to look. I can easily do the keyboards. I do an eye dart, basic eye gaze pass at the end. So I'll start with the lip sync. Again, I'll get to that in a sec. And then I will do the performance of, okay, he's starting this way. Then he looks over here. He looks down. He looks surprised. You can do an eyebrow pass. So down here, all of your behaviors, you can turn them all off. You can turn them on a little bit of time. And that's by just hitting Control, click. Everything's off. It'll have a sec. It'll go, whoa, nothing's working. He's frozen in time. If I only want to do eye gaze, I will just select eye gaze. It'll think for a sec, of course, because my eyes are not open. You won't see anything because I've turned everything else off. So we'll turn everything else back on. And yeah, so some people like to do it that way, where you just do little by little by little. First, I'll do my acting pass. Now I'll turn everything off except my eye gazes, and I'll do my eye gaze pass. I like to do the eye gaze pass at the end. Doesn't matter when you do it. Or what I like to do, once you get the hang of it and you get better at it and you feel the flow and you get it with, it's more of an acting performance, is I will know what's coming, obviously, because I wrote it and I performed it. And if it's coming in and I know he's going to be frustrated, and I'll lean in and he'll just kind of do this, and his head will move down, or he'll kind of close his eyes out of frustration, and then he'll do that, and I'll know it's coming. So you can close your eyes and take a breath. And if the mouths don't work exactly how you want them to work, that's fine. You can adjust it after. It doesn't have to be perfect in the performance, but now when I try to do the performance, I've done it so much that I kind of know my fingers are always on the keys, and I'm looking left and right when I'm doing this performance, like the eye darts, and that's what he's doing. Or I'm switching to a smile. With my one, I'm gonna go to my ooh. Okay, so that mouth is broken. See that? That's pretty great. I don't know what happened there, but we'll figure it out. The other mouths are good. So the two mouths, my happy, sad, go back to neutral, hitting it again, go back to the happy. So while I'm doing the performance, yeah, look at that. So this happens, for some reason my happy mouths on my 3/4 right view are messed up. All the others are fine. And we'll figure out why. And this happens. I'm glad this happened. Things pop up where it worked yesterday. You won't do anything, and then you'll come back and it won't work, and you'll have to figure out why it happens. There's reasons for everything. So yeah, that's am I getting? So if I hit play here, here's a little bit of a performance that I did. I think this beginning of episode 3.
Don't you know how dangerous it is here? Wait until your mother finds out about this.
So super static, obviously. There's not a whole lot going on. There's not movement. I could, hindsight's 2020. If I did this again, I probably would have added more movement to Rex. I would have made him kind of put his head up, or kind of out of frustration. You'll notice it'll kind of move away from his neck, so you can't do it too much. But if you build it properly, which I might not have, his head will pivot in the right point, which obviously I didn't get there, but that's what future episodes are for. You're constantly updating your rigs and making them better. And I'm already playing with something with a different face build where you can add parallax to the head, so the facial features will actually move left and right around on the head instead of getting a full head turn, and we'll see if we can fit that into episode 4. But yeah, so you're constantly adding to your builds and adding to your characters and fixing them left, right, left, right, left, right. Yeah, so that's the basic of that. So when it comes to the performance, you hit the little record button. I like to start with the lip sync first, which I'll get into that in just a second about how I do that, which is a pretty cool process. It's all done through Audition and Premiere. It's a bit more involved, but we'll get there in a sec. And then I like to do the performance with the limbs, obviously. So if we go transform, let's just scale out a little bit here so we can see all of Rex in all his glory. So everything's obviously draggable. So if I were, say, like I said, I hit F, I go to my fist, I can just bring up his hands and oh, he's pissed off and he's gonna go here. This is where I want Rex. You can try to do recording as you go, but again, if you pop to another view, it's gonna go away. It doesn't work very well for me. So what I like to do is do an old record 2-frame take. So it's gonna think for a second, and then we will get our recording here. So what happened when I did that? Now let's find the take that I just did. Here it is, tiny little thing. So if I zoom in, I should use a character that had a, and again, and the more you record, if you get more into your timeline and more, it takes it's a little slower to do everything because this is a full episode done. There's a lot going on here. As you find, as you animate on, by the end of the episode, it'll go a little bit slower than it was, and that's normal. So if you got a better machine, it'll handle it better. I don't have the best machine, so it's a little sluggish at times. Okay, so what do we have here? So we recorded our 2-frame take. Now we've got Rex, lovely with his hands on his hips, but you'll notice, boom, boom, what I recorded, my position was different than what it was before. He was looking off to the side. I'm obviously not going to use this. This episode is done. But to avoid that pop on, pop off, you literally just can drag, add some little handles here to what you've done, add it to the beginning, add it to the end, doesn't really matter at the end. So now, instead of just popping on, he goes, and he'll kind of move in. And you see, it is gradual, so if it's too much, you can reduce that. And then again, like I mentioned, sometimes there's a different preference. Because I had everything selected here on the side, everything will be affected by what I recorded, which I kind of like, because when it's just kind of natural that if you move, you don't just like, if I move my hand, my body doesn't just move by it, like it doesn't just stay stationary. The thing I do like about recording, where I record one thing, everything moves with it. Because if I were to say, cross my arms, you don't just go like this. Your body doesn't just stay stationary, although you can do that, but it feels a little unnatural. So when I record something or a 2-frame take, I do like to say, pick everything else up. I want to see my body move a little. I want to see my head move a little. So you have this smooth transition. If you don't obviously like the direction he's doing with his turn there, you can do it again and change the performance. But I like to see the body kind of move in a certain way with the movement of what I've done. If you don't want that, you can just scrub down to find everything else in this character. There's, okay, that's still the right wrist. You want to keep that. Here's the face. So it picked that up. If I don't want that to be affected by what I did, I can just delete that line. And now it's gone. His face is not affected by the performance I just did. But obviously the best way to do it is to, down here off on the side, which controls everything, I would unselect face. Now for what I'm doing, I don't want my face affected. Okay, you see? Okay, it's still there. It's picking up a lot of other stuff. It's picking up my head and body turner. It's going to pick up my eyes and blinks. If I were to turn off my eye gaze, if I were to turn off my lip sync, when I record the next time, it won't record those things with it. It won't pick them up. So that's one way of doing it. I just want to do one thing at a time. For me, I like to do as much as possible. And then if there's something really offensive in there that I don't like and I want to get rid of it, I just go down to the line, I find what it is, and I get rid of it. And then you just move on. And that's really it. So that's honestly the most that I want to cover with animation. Obviously, there's more that you can do. Getting into how easy it is to doing the animation itself. Again, that's a whole other video. I don't need to get into how it's all done, but I wanted to do a quick little walkthrough of everything, not everything, but the basics of what I do, of how to make it look the way that you see on the screen. And yeah, is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it okay? I think so. It's all right. It's good enough. And it's everything's a stepping stone, and this is mine. And yeah, you see where it goes, and you perfect it over time. And so yeah, that's animation. What's next? What is next? Okay, so lip sync. This one is a big one. Obviously, this was a little intimidating when I got into it. I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but it's a reason that I chose Character Animator, because it handles it so well. I've seen how other programs do. I'm sure they're fine in their own sense, but I do like how this is quite intuitive, and I'll show you what I mean. So obviously, when we see me talking, Rex is talking too, but even though, oh wow, his mouth is moving and it's following what you're saying, it doesn't pick up everything. Obviously, it doesn't do a perfect job getting everything that you're saying. If I just stuck with this recording of what it's picking up with my mouth and this mic, believe me, you would see like the lip sync's not good. So how do you get around it? How do you make it look as good as it is? So you will see there's all these letters, syllables and different mouths that it will pick up. or I'll show you how, that you'll essentially have to build using Premiere and a feature in there, which is super, super handy. And I'll just get right into it. I don't want to spend too much time on this. So if you pop over to Premiere, here's an example of some audio. You bring in the audio that you recorded into Premiere, and then you go up to your text window here, and you would say, you'd say transcribe. So I've already transcribed this section, and it will listen to, Premiere will listen to the audio, and you know, here we go.
Dad, hang up. It's a scam.
Now this is from a section of ExtraNots, which it was an outtake, which hasn't been in the show yet. I'll add it later, so here's a bit of a spoiler, but this is the audio I chose, so good job, Mark. Okay, so first you transcribe, then you do captions. It will create captions. You'll see it on here that you will.
Dad, hang up. It's a.
It'll show up on the screen. You export yourself an SRT file. Now you bring that back into Character Animator, and then you make sure you've got everything in here. So we've got, for example, Rex1. This is the audio file that we're looking at for this example. Now over here on the side, you'll have your transcript. Now that SRT file that we exported from Premiere, we will now import that SRT file, and it will automatically generate this lovely transcript. And then once you've got the audio and your character selected, you will come up here to compute lip sync take from audio and transcript. So that will listen to the audio and read the transcript that you made, and it will match the visemes, they call it in this program, which is the mouths to the audio, to your recording. Is it perfect? No, it absolutely is not perfect. It takes a lot of futzing, because I've told people very briefly about this process, and they go, oh wow, you just hit a button and it does it. No, it is not that simple. I wish it was, but if you look here, so I've obviously tweaked all of this stuff. We have, if I just play this quick section here.
Mom knows?
Mom knows. So a lot of times it just doesn't get the mouths right. It does its best. It's a good foundation for you going in and futzing with it again. Futzing, technical term. So it's very simple to update these mouths. If I right click these mouths, it'll give me the options of what I can change it to. So if it did an O instead of an or if you just look at it and see what looks better, you go through viseme by viseme or syllable by syllable, whatever you want to call it, and you update all of them to make it match the mouth. Any character like Rex, I think it takes me about a full day, maybe two, depending on how much dialogue obviously there is, to make these changes. Again, it is not automatic. It's not perfect. It's not, you're not going to just hit a button and it's going to work. So if you're frustrated that it's not, but hey, it's a lot better than some of the programs where you have to do it, you know, every single mouth. There's no starting point. It gets you there a little bit faster, and it works pretty darn good. Yeah, so I like it. Okay, Premiere, editing, throwing it all together. This is fun. So we have our animation, we have our voices, we have everything that we need to put into one place, and let's put it all together. So you'll spend a lot of time in Premiere. If you haven't used it before, again, fairly simple to pick up. There's tutorials everywhere, but honestly, there's not much to it. As you can see, here's the whole episode 3. A lot of layers going on here. There's a bit of method to the madness, but for me, I like to put all my background layers onto one layer, onto V1, and then everything else stacked on top. Of course, you would not have anything below the background because you won't see it. So starting with one of the more complicated shots, one of our first shots where we've got our lovely standing on the cliff, the characters here, the clouds moving in the background. That was something I wanted to do just to add a little life to the scene. I worked with a visual effects supervisor many years ago that once said to have anything outside look real, of course, this is visual effects. Nothing in nature is still. There's always some kind of movement. Of course, I didn't add any movement to the plants, but if those clouds were static for a shot this long, you would feel it. So what I did was the background that I did generate, or I separated the clouds into different layers. So I have them behind, as you can see here. If I zoom in a little bit, we've got our cliff face, which is very obviously in the background, our mountain in the background, on top of a couple different layer of clouds that are tracking, where's my FX controls, left to right here. So you've got a little bit of motion. That's small little touches that you can add. Again, not necessary, but if you want to, you can get into that. We have our characters obviously placed where we want them to. So yeah, when I'm animating, I know Rex is looking this way, Casey's looking this way, they're looking at each other, conscious of the eye lines. Pretty happy with how Casey's eye line worked out here. Rex is looking a little high, but down and to the left for him it looks more like he's looking down. So left was good enough. I need his height to be consistent throughout the show, so that's where it is. I wasn't going to get crazy with painting the eyeballs to go in specific exact directions. So yes, eyeline is not perfect in the show, but hey, it is what it is. Background, you'll notice that the background's a little blurred here, which is done intentionally, obviously. This is with a little bit of Gaussian blur. If we take that sucker off, boom, we crystal clear. That's not how cameras work. That's not how lenses work. 25 might have been too much. I could have gone with like 15, maybe 20 would have been fine. 20 would have been fine. I went with 25. Do it feels right. With a long lens, obviously, with some shots there is no blurred background. That's just because, again, basic camera lens 101. Look it up. Yeah, so I blurred the background here and there when it felt right, when it made sense. Other times I did not, for obvious reasons. Yeah, so all it is doing all the animation, taking what you got, slapping it together, putting it here, one on top of the other. I don't need to get into how to use Premiere exactly. Again, it's pretty simple. Drag it in. If we look up here into the left, we've got position. That's how you can move any layer around. You can scale it. You can rotate it, you can crop it, and then all of the effects and layers, we're talking like, adjusting the blurring, colors. I don't really mess with that too much. I do that all in Character Animator. Adding perspective changes. I had a little bit of fun with that here. Yeah, I don't know if anyone's noticed, it's pretty subtle. But my Astronauts pitch title here, I decided to get a little bit crazy with some basic 3D. I was swiveling and tilting. You see the Astronauts logo there. Just having a little fun up in here with a little bit of that. Again, little touches. The space in the back is rotating slightly. If it wasn't, I feel like you would feel it. It would be a little too static. So yeah, that's the fun stuff. Obviously, the credits are ridiculous. Yeah, I do it all except for a few things which I do mention later. But I have a lot of fun editing. Editing's a lot of fun because that's when you can really put it all together. You can adding the music is a huge thing. The biggest difference between the first two episodes and the third was I really made a big deal about putting music wherever it felt right. There's some moments where it didn't feel right to have music, like in this scene where it was this uncomfortable fly back and they're going back to the base and Rex is kind of like awkwardly making conversation with Casey, and I had music in there for a second and then it just felt it felt wrong. It's supposed to be awkward and it was making it a little less awkward, so I took that out. All these little stings with the mission commander, his is actually fun. I'm not going to touch on After Effects because I did so little After Effects in this episode or so far in the show. The only After Effects I've used is to create this effect over Mission Commander, which you cannot do in, obviously, Character Animator. You can't do it in Premiere. I don't think there is. If there is a way, I don't know. But yeah, the screen overlay, I literally just have a little bit of, there it is. There's a bit of the screen isolated into its own layer, covering up what you got going on to there. And then, of course, the ship screen itself, or the console behind him. Yeah, so it's just, editing Premiere, it'll take a long time, but you can have a lot of fun with it. Like I said, in here, all of these, what are they called even? Graphic templates that I have with kind of the introductions for the characters when they're doing their testimonials or their interviews here later in the show. This graphic template did not come with Premiere, but you can find them online. So if you literally just Google Adobe Premiere graphic templates, you will find these awesome graphic templates that there's a lot to choose from. A lot of them are sports specific. I'm not sure why. News specific, stuff made more for TV. There's a lot of different kind of credits. There's like Star Wars, space credits. There's a lot of credits, which is great. Of course, the credits that I went with, I just made myself because I decided to have a little more fun with it. But, the classic credits that you would find at the end of movies or shows, they're all in there. So yeah, play around with that. That's a lot of fun. Man, this sequence took a little while because there was a lot to consider, like Casey walking left to right. I did make walk cycles in Character Animator for these characters, but they are limited because when you do the walk cycles, they take a while to get them to work. But then even when you do, the eyes don't follow. Like if you're saying left or right, you can say, okay, I want the eyes to go right when I'm looking right, but sometimes I want them looking left or eyes closed. You have a little less control over the character themselves when they are walking, and I wanted Casey to be waving while she was coming in this room. So instead of using the walk cycle that I made, I just brought her in and I bobbed her up and down with different with her position. So she's going up and down, just doing a kind of a fake walk. So I'll do that any chance I get. Frame tighter, cut out the legs from the waist down, because then you don't have to worry about the legs, and that's a lot of work right there. You'll notice down here Wazzy has his hand behind the table. Now you obviously can't do that in nothing happens by accident. Everything is intentional. There it is. It's the edge. I called it edge 4. So you'll notice if I turn this sucker off, it's such a small little thing. I'd have to zoom. Let's zoom in. I'll zoom in right here. See right here? See where his hand is? And it's currently just kind of hovering at the table. That's because I made a tiny little edge of the table and I put it in front of the layer of Wazzy, and I matched it to the background so that it looks like he's got his hand on the side of the table. Again, that took a while. I don't know how long it took. It's embarrassing to admit how long some things take, but those tiny little touches I feel really separate a good production from. Again, he moves a little, his hand moves away from the table. Could I have redone his animation so it didn't do that? Yes. Did I choose to? No, because I had other things I wanted to focus on, and that's kind of how I do my, I do what I know I have to do, and then you do pass after pass after pass after pass. Oh, I can do that, I can do that. And then you realize it's been a month since I put anything out. I really want to get this episode out so I can just move on and do other stuff. So you make a choice at some point to just say, good enough. And unfortunately, that's also the way that it is in our industry, where, I mean, it's of course all dictated by budget and time and resources and schedule, when the client needs it or when they say they need it, and because when they need to air it. So man, if you had all the time in the world to do whatever you wanted for everything, everything would look amazing, because you would have so much. It's all about time and money and resources, as we know. Could I have spent more time on this to make it look better? Absolutely. But this episode probably wouldn't even be out yet, and I think I put it out 2 weeks ago. So it's is it perfect? No. But it's as good as it's going to get. What else? Is there anything else here that we need to cover in Premiere? No, I don't think so. That's honestly it. So once you're done, you get your whole episode. I didn't really touch on music. All right, so music and sound effects. This is another big one. They're all big, let's be honest. So for the music, as you see in the credits, my cousin Bryce Jansen out in LA, he did the theme song, the original theme song for me, which is amazing. Shout out to Bryce, you're the man. As far as the other music, there's a lot of kind of filler music. There's transition music. There's stock stuff. I found a lot of copyright-free, royalty-free stuff online that I could put into here. Just Google it. Hey, put a link here. This is where I found the stuff that I use. There you go. Yes, you need to fill it in with either ambient noise inside or ambient noise outside. And again, you can find all this stuff online. Here's an example of when they're landing at the base. You can hear that properly. So we've got a couple things going on here. We've got the ship landing, which I made myself over here, and it's just my voice going, just doing that, and that's just me recording over myself a few times, different sound effects, making those sounds myself. It's really fun, and it's actually easier sometimes to just make what you want compared to finding it online. And then of course we also have outside sound. So this is again, just found it online. It's just like a meadowy outdoor sound. There's stuff like this everywhere. If we jump ahead here to when Casey leaves the ship, let's see what we get here. Yeah, so beep, we got a couple things there. Beep. So the beep, obviously, I didn't make that myself. I just found a typical beep sound online, added it in there for the sound when he hits the keyboard. And then the zh is just me in the booth going zh, making that sound for when it comes out. So yeah, anytime that I can just do it myself, it's just easier to do it yourself. If it's just a simple sound effect sound. Anytime you see Mr. or Rex typing on the keyboard, that's just me literally taking this keyboard or a wireless keyboard into the booth and just hitting the keys in short intervals, like a 2 or a 3 or a 5 second or a 10 second, depending on how much they're typing. And then I just cut that all up and throw it in the show. So music and sound effects, super, super important to fill it in. Don't overlook the music sound effects. If you do, they won't know why there's something wrong about it, and it is that. It's a huge thing, so don't overstep that step. All right, moving on. Yeah, once you're done with the episode and you've got everything and you're like, I think I'm good. Super simple. You just go file, export, media. Thanks for a second. And then yeah, you just save. Where is it gonna go? Call it whatever you want. H.264 is pretty standard. I don't check, yes, I want video. Yes, I want audio. I don't change anything in here. It all works good. And you just say export and that's it. You're done. That's it. So now you have your episode, you put it out. Do not think the first thing you export is going to be what you upload. It never, ever is. You will watch it, and I can guarantee immediately you will see something that jumps out that you hate. Oh crap, I forgot to do that, or oh, I have I have an audio line muted, or I have this layer turned off, or like you see pops and you go back and back and you change it over and over. It's called the QC process, or the quality check process. All studios do it. You get to the point where you think it's done. You're not. You're going to watch it many times. A good example is episode 3. I thought I was done. I think I had gone back and re-exported it maybe 5-6 times. I thought I was going to upload it, and then I noticed... you see here, actually here, if you look here, you see Rex and Cindy have their let me get a wide shot where they're all there. They all have their little cameras on their belts. It is a plot point, as introduced in the second episode. These are the cameras that are filming the show. I had updated Rex and Cindy's belts to have cameras, but I hadn't done it to Casey and Wazzy yet. And I forgot to do it. I knew I would do it eventually, and I never got around to it. I animated the entire episode. I was ready to upload it. It was so close, and then I think the last watch before I was going to hit upload, I noticed they didn't have cameras on their belts. So I had to go back to their character designs. I had to add cameras to their belts. The animation was all still there, so I didn't have to reanimate everything, but I had to re-export every scene with them in it and put them back into the show. It took about a day, but it's still an extra day of work that you didn't think you had to do. It happens. It's going to happen. Don't worry about it. It happens to everybody, no matter how small or how big the show is. It happens. So yeah, not a big deal. So that's Premiere. So that's it. That's everything. That's how I make my show. This was fun, but I got to get back to actually making the show. But you know the drill. Subscribe to the channel over here. Here's my last episode that I made, the one I'm most proud of. You can skip the first 2 if you don't like the quality. You'll see. Anyways, you'll figure it out. But thanks again so much for watching. This was fun. But yeah, I can't wait to show you more episodes. So until next time, see ya later, I guess. Bye.